The Knights of Ren podcast is brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., your source for Star Wars Destiny singles, sealed product, and more. Check them out at coolstuffinc.com.
We like to push the envelope, create exciting, powerful cards, and it's our job to make sure we design cards that people get excited about and want to play.
This is D-House from the Jedi Trials.
Hey, this is Mike from swdestiny.com.
Hey everyone, this is Evan from the JodoCast.
Hey everyone, this is Mike Hill from the Chance Cube.
This is Tiny Grimes from the Smuggler's Den.
This is Jedi Geek Girl from I Rebel.
Hi there, this is John from Starkiller Base.
This is Zach Bunn from Team Covenant.
I'm Lucas Litzinger.
Hey, it's Tia Zirkar. I voice Sabine on Star Wars Rebels.
Hi, I'm Ashley Eckstein, voice of Ahsoka Tano, and you're listening to The Knights of Ren.
You in?
That's yes.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to The Knights of Ren, episode 515. With us this week are Nick, Todd, and Rick. How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Doing good.
Doing well. How are you, Sugi? You don't ever get to say it.
I'm doing very well. I am super excited about Worlds. I'm totally swamped. We've got just a ton of stuff in the pipeline with, there's so much going on. I'm crazy stoked. If you haven't heard already, we've got the 3v3 tournament, and that's Eric Wainwright's baby. But we're doing a lot of the footwork to help make that happen. But that's probably the thing I'm most excited about, to be really honest. Like, I love Happy Hour. The giant party we had last year was amazing, and we've got way more prize support and some huge stuff to announce as we get closer to the event. But the 3v3 I am enjoying so much, because we're talking amongst ourselves, are we playing heroes, are we playing villains, who gets what character, should we just do monocolor, what are we going to do, how do we split up the removal packages, what vehicles or what weapons or what upgrades are going who, where, how. And it's just kind of fun because there's not really anything on the line, so you can't show up trying to win a booster box or hundreds of dollars in spot glosses. We're going to be bringing some fun prize support. I'm thinking about Star Wars gummies. I don't know, who knows. So
are they from California?
What does that matter?
Well, because in California they have THC gummies, so it does matter.
There is a difference, right?
I don't understand.
Okay.
All right. Everybody on the West Coast will understand that.
Yeah.
Which is sad because I'm from California. Anywho, so I'm just doing a lot of work in the background, but I did want to say, I know you guys called out sick last week, but I noticed you were on that Only Hope Gaming podcast. So how did that go?
Yeah, they pay better.
Yeah. Yeah, those appearance fees are racking up. There's some great guys, and we had a lot of fun with them. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. Fun.
Are they a local group, or
they're down in the Norfolk area. So we were basically talking about building up communities and community run tournaments and leagues and stuff like that. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I listened to half of it on my way home from work, and it was really good. So anyone listening to this, check out Only Hope Gaming. We'll have a link in the show notes. We'll post on social media, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. But yeah, good job. Also,
we did come out to those guys as completely computer illiterate while we were trying to record that. Todd had to update 14 things on his laptop or computer, and going it through Discord, and it was no, this link don't work. We're not going to use that. Then we finally got everything to work, and then Todd had broke his mic the week before because he was angry and wrapped it up super tight and bent the micro USB cable, and we were finally in there. It was oh, you guys can't hear it? Oh wait. And then we saw that, and we were oh man. So,
yeah, it was a nightmare.
Yeah. It was an hour and a half of setup for that show. It's we've never done a podcast before. So, but yeah, those guys were great. You should definitely check that out.
Yeah, I absolutely think you should. The part I listened to was great. It was very interesting. It was a neat show because on our podcast, we talk a lot about the game, the cards, the interactions, and your episode was discussing more about the logistics of running a tournament and the structure, the format. And I thought that was kind of neat that it was a different approach, even though it's the same, game and the same content. It's a different perspective that not many people talk about, if ever. So yeah, go check that out. It's really good. But we've got a lot to talk about because we are 2 weeks away from leaving for Worlds. And I mean, that's not a lot of time. We've been talking about these decks for the past couple weeks. We've still got a couple more to go through. And then, of course, all of the free, amazing, fantastical, super duper delicious coverage we're going to be bringing to you from Minnesota. So stay tuned for that. We have got a lot on the docket. But this week, we're going to be talking about blue sticks. And that's going to be all of these variants of blue melee decks, primarily hero, because, you know, the meta is very hero flavored. So the first deck we should definitely jump into right now, and I want to hear more about because you guys were playing it at the Only Hope Gaming tournament, was Rayla, and that's Ray 2 Aayla, and that's sticks on sticks on sticks plus an ancient lightsaber in there. So tell us a little bit more about what that deck is, what that deck does, what you're supposed to be doing with it.
So first off, I'll throw it out there that I did not play that, and I was like one of the only people from Richmond that didn't take that deck. So I do know about that deck, but I'm going to pass that on to Todd, who actually did play that. So
yeah, so I had to put in some reps with it because I haven't gotten to play against it very much. So
it'll be around at Worlds for sure.
Yeah, so
even if it's not super popular, it'll be there.
Yeah, so I've been going through pretty much everything right now and just getting behind the wheel and playing a little bit of everything. So I have some familiarity with the decks and how they work and their basic structure and the mechanics of the deck, more or less. So I took that one, and it was just kind of funny because we had 8 guys come down from Richmond for that tournament, and I think half of us were playing that deck, and I didn't know we were going to have that many. Otherwise, I would have played something else. But so I ran that. I went 3-1 with it. I'm pretty sure my Ray dice are broken. Yeah, they only rolled a resource, a discard, and a blank all day. So, but you know, that's neither here nor there. That doesn't change how the deck works. The deck's got a really, really nice ramp in it. Most of them are running 2 Reaping the Crystals and 2 It Binds All Things. And that's giving that deck the ability to take advantage of the 3 crossed blue upgrades like Heirloom Saber, Obi Stick, Ray Stick, and really just ramping out some upgrades and getting the engine rolling quickly. And then you have Aayla, of course, for dice fixing and a little bit of on-board dice control for your opponent as well. And it's just got pretty much a basic mitigation package in it of blue hero with overconfidences, guards, force misdirection works really well in it. Hidden motive, it's free. And the other nice little spicy part of the deck is the CQAs. The close quarters assaults are really good out of that deck. And if you can hit for just 2, it's still solid.
Yeah, but tell us why.
Why? Because it gets cards out of their hand.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay. so I should clarify.
Here's why, right? Like, right now, we're at a point where people are not playing cards that aren't good, right? Like maybe like 6 months ago, a year ago, there were plenty of cards in your deck where you were okay if you just never got to play them or never got the chance to use them. So there were a lot of discard fodder that would every once in a while be useful. But right now, like literally every card in the deck has a purpose because the card pool is so high that, you know, not only are there like decks like the 1-turn kills and stuff where it's really good against, you know, the vehicle decks where it's really good against, but just getting those cards out of their hand, especially on the first turn, where you're mulliganing to try and sculpt the best hand that you can, really dominates from that point on to the in the game. I mean, like the first turn, if you can knock out 3 cards from your opponent's hand, you're almost guaranteed to get gas every time. And it's just that from that point on, it's like they're not going to be able to discard to reroll even if they had something they wanted to. You get to keep the melee damage on board, so you're still going to be able to do the damage. You're probably going to hit some mitigation if they didn't get a chance to mitigate you there, and you're just so far ahead of your opponent at that point. It's probably the best card in the deck.
Yeah, with the ramp and CQA, if you can combine that on the first turn, it puts you very far ahead. So it's very powerful, and it was an impressive deck. I mean, it's got some flaws. I mean, of course, raised dice are raised dice. They always are. But I mean, it's very good. I was impressed with it.
The only thing I had to say about CQA is that sometimes if you're playing against the decks that can actually run the better mitigation, the things like easy pickings or entangle or into the garbage chute, if your opponent has those cards, they're going to use them against your dice, and your CQA isn't actually going to do much a lot of times. mostly feels like it is just kind of a card that helps you keep a lead more than like catches you up a lot of times. Because if it's more of like, if they drew bad and did not have removal that round, you're going to punish them and make it so that they have a bad offensive round as well, because they're not going to be able to discard to reroll, while you get to remove half their hand or all their hand, and then you get to keep rerolling for max damage. Like, it's a weird card. And when you hit for 2 or more, it's amazing. But I don't know if like, I think it's better in a deck where you have friends in low places already, where you can like start at the round, hit them with friends in low, be able to like take out the removal, then roll out and then hit them with the close quarters assault. Not to say that it's not like, it is a good card. It's just, it's a weird one. And it's really awful to sit across when you don't have removal in your hand. It's just like the biggest blowouts in the game.
Now, just to remind people, close quarters assault allows you to, for 0 resources, you roll out your dice, and the number of dice showing sticks, melee sides, you get to remove that many cards from your opponent's hand. So it's not the value showing on the die, it's the number of individual dice showing melee. So if you have 3 dice showing, 1 melee, and then +3 melee on your ancient lightsaber, that's 5 damage you can deal, but you can use close quarters assault to take 3 cards out of your opponent's hand. So it's not the value showing, like, you can't play close quarters assault showing 5 damage and you take 5 cards out of the opponent's hand. That would be pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, but to go along with what Nick was saying there, like, sometimes you roll out some like modifiers, like a pay side that you can't pay for, and your opponent then has to choose, am I going to try and get rid of these dice now, or am I leaving myself open to the CQA? That happened to me today.
I think it's also just like, that works way better against less strong players too, because you have to play around the CQA. If there's any chance you're going to take 3, you have to, right? Like, what do you think? Did you play around it when you played against it?
I did not, and it blew me out, right? Like, I could have gotten rid of 1, but at that point, getting rid of 1 isn't really worth it, right? I mean, I'm still, but it makes it to where that's the card that I'm discarding instead of potentially being stuck with just that card. But yeah, I mean, it's like my opponent rolled out +2, like a +2 and a 3 for 1, right? Like, I kind of want to save it in case he rolls out something else to be able to hit those modified sides, or be able to get a resource when I can't disrupt him or something along those lines, to be able to maximize my mitigation potential. And I just allowed myself to walk into that. And luckily, he wasn't able to roll into it. And I didn't take that much. But, it's still, like, I was playing vehicles and I had a ridiculous hand to where he got rid of, I think, he got rid of 3 vehicles. Right. Like,
yeah. And that's the hardest part with vehicles too, is like, your hand is your most precious resource a lot of the times, because most of the times you're playing your stuff on the back end of the turn instead of the round, instead of at the beginning. Like, most other decks will be like, I'll play my upgrade out and then we'll roll out. Like, you're saving your stuff for the end. So while your dice aren't as mitigatable because you're throwing them out later, your hand is extremely mitigatable.
Yeah. So, I mean, it blew me out, but I made the conscious decision not to do it. So it's kind of my fault, right? Like, I could have just discarded, like, I would have been left with 1 of those vehicles at that point. But, he could have discarded and rolled and still gotten all of it. So it's like, you kind of, if you don't in that situation, but it's just the way that card is.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. Do you waste mitigation thinking or planning that they do have it, or do you save mitigation for a bad situation, right? When you know they can deal the damage. So it does make for tough situations and hard calls to be made. I mean, even at that point, if you've got 3 cards in your hand and you mitigate 1 die, they still CQA you for 2. They've still wiped the hand. So I mean, it's like, at that point, it's 6 in one, half a dozen in the other.
Well, that's kind of why I expressed it more like, it doesn't work as well versus the better removal, like the multi-die removal.
Yeah,
obviously.
Absolutely.
Like, single die removal feels like you're just wasting resources for nothing. But yeah, when it comes to multi-die removal, it's a little different story, because you can come on the up ahead on that.
Definitely.
The obviously stuff like the really blowout ones, like force misdirection, is a no-brainer. If you have that, you're going to use it against your opponent.
Yeah.
Regardless. Like,
like, I mean, that's the one mitigation card that is just really, CQA is really bad against. Like, if they can get out ahead of you, and you almost are discarding that CQA just because you're not going to want to try and sculpt it into a situation where it's going to be good.
Sculpt the word of the week.
Have I said it a couple times?
Yeah, you've been working that one today.
Sculpt. And sculpt.
Why is that word of the day?
I don't know.
I've
just
said it like 3 times in this conversation, so apparently it is.
Are you practicing like new vocabulary?
Yeah.
Why not?
I'm sculpting my.
I heard you use serendipitous in the interview with Only Hope.
You like that? You heard that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. I'm like, hey, that's a big word. I know that word.
That's a triple word score worked into a podcast about Destiny.
And then I threw in a irregardless for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that one too. My wife cringed.
Yeah, I'm going to look that one up in the dictionary.
It's awesome.
Challenge. All right. But yeah, I mean, back to the show at hand. It's like in that deck, just moving away from CQA a little bit because we kind of spent a lot of time on it. It's not uncommon for you to end up with 2-3 cost upgrades on turn one, and I mean that is the strength of the deck right there. Like the ability to just get out that far ahead on in those 3 costs. The 3 cost sabers right now are just so good. Like. And just can deal so much massive damage. And that's one of the ways to fight it. If you can somehow get them off their resources early, with things like Abandon All Hope.
Yeah, if you're playing against it and you have Abandon All Hope in your deck and you get to go first in the first round, that might just win you the game. Just getting that far ahead in the round one. The fact that you basically at that point, by you playing Abandon All Hope against the deck in round one, you take away 3 points from their character team. That's what you did. You took away their profitable connection. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, even somehow being able to get rid of 1 resource early. Like, I mean, there's not a whole lot of chances that you could do that, but yeah, that's the same thing, just getting rid of 3 points. But, it puts you on parity, which is bad. Like you're getting rid of your resources to get rid of theirs, but the fact that you are back on parity with them and their dice, while good, their character dice are good, yours are probably better because you're spending that extra 3 points for those character dice, essentially. So, I mean, that is one of the only ways to really just get ahead of them. Other than that, they just have to roll bad and roll into your mitigation. And it's really hard to do with that because those dice are split. While they're a predominantly melee deck, Aayla, she has 2 indirect side. It's like it doesn't roll into easy pickings too well. Her special, can make it to where she can get out of those situations if they're smart enough. Her special is pretty difficult to deal with in general. It's mitigation and fixing at the same time. And it's her dice are really good. You almost do not care what you roll with her, but Ray's dice are going to be Ray. It's just a really consistent deck that really takes advantage of that profitable connections.
It's pretty fair though. I think you can play force speed in it a lot of times, but other than force speed, it does kind of just put its dice out there, lets you interact with it. It's got a fairly limited set of removal. Like Blue Hero does have some good stuff, but a lot of it is like the stuff that requires your dice to be in the pool. Like the best removal for Blue Hero is dice in pool stuff. So it is a little bit more situational in that aspect.
Yeah, but I still think it's probably the best fair deck.
Yeah, it probably is the best fair deck right now. I mean, it depends. Like, do you count vehicles as fair because they don't action cheat a lot?
No, but they're definitely cheating out stuff.
They cheat out money. They cheat out their stuff with I
don't think there's anything fair about Rally Aid anymore.
Yeah, that's fair. Rally Aid's not a very fair card for sure.
Like it's one of those like how when you get that random 1 discard against you and they always pull that good card, that makes it to where it really feels good for you. There was a couple times today where I had the one card that I wanted the Rally Aid to go off of, and I just try it, and they pull it multiple times throughout the course of the game, and I'm like, yeah, this is back to feel good time, right? It's and the fact that there's so many 2 cost. We're talking about vehicles. Never mind. I'm not gonna get into that.
Vehicles are fun. I understand.
Yeah, it's a fun deck. Sometimes it can really put you on tilt, but
you missed out. We talked about them last week.
Yeah, but I had some sickness to work through there.
Was it on a podcast you were sick?
No,
that wasn't until Thursday.
No, they're able to record a podcast and put it out relatively quickly.
Oh, okay. I see how
they don't edit as much out as we do.
That's true. All right, so back to the topic at hand. when you're playing with, Rayla, and you say it's fair, for those listening who may not know what you're talking about, why don't you elaborate a little bit?
There's kind of a lot of things. My thoughts kind of like outside of force speed, it has no action cheating if you're playing force speed even. So that kind of adds to it. You're playing removal that can't even hit your dice for the most part outside of their dice being in the field. So the removal options are pretty limited. It just kind of rolls out and just has to roll well. Like you have Aayla's focus like special, but that's one side of her die. That's not really enough to like say that the deck is super consistent. I mean, your consistency comes in the fact that you just have a lot of stick size and you keep re-rolling them and hoping for the best in the end, which is kind of like how like decks used to be run more before we had a lot of action. Like even back in Awakenings, like all the decks pretty much were fair. They pretty much just rolled out and re-rolled a lot. I mean, that's kind of what you'd expect to do is roll out, probably don't hit damage on most of your stuff, re-roll till you hit damage.
Or just God roll.
Yeah, or just God roll. So I mean, it's just kind of like they just try to put upgrades out, keep their characters alive and roll out. Like there's not much tricks to it. They don't have like any disrupt. There's very little discard even from outside. Like CQA is their one trick pony. That's their one little thing that really like other than like their blowout or removal. Like the CQA is the one card that just kind of is like, yeah, this is how I can get them and get something tricky in here. But other than that, like that's 2 cards in the deck. And other than that, they're not very interactive with your board state as much as they are just trying to get their damage out and upgrades out.
Yeah, it's got a very similar feel to the Po Ray. Very similar.
Yeah, it just can't heal as well. And It's not quite as good at tanking. I mean, you put 2 Shotos on Ray and, she's going to be pretty difficult to deal with. But, it's kind of like Po Ray that just doesn't heal. It's still got the cautions, it's still got the Shotos, it still has Ray, and she does her thing with Shotos, but it's a monocolored Po Ray deck that's a little worse at tanking.
Yeah.
And it's just looking to get to a critical mass of upgrades that you're just not going to be able to deal with. And those upgrades are really good at not being vandalized too. Like, it hurts when you got to, spend 3 dice to get rid of one of their upgrades. And then the next turn they just play another one. So, I mean, it's basically if the game goes long and you're not milling them out, they're probably going to win.
So what are some of the key upgrades that Rayla decks are looking for?
I think it's your typical blue upgrades. I mean, you're looking for Shotos, you're looking for Ancients, and overlays into heirlooms before a character dies. You also have the handcrafted light bow and the Obi stick.
Ray's lightsaber for redeploy as well, right?
Yep, and the Ray's lightsaber. Generally, most of the ones that we've seen around here are running 1 Obis and 1 Ray's, and then 2 of the light bows and 2 of the heirlooms. And then, of course, you got the Shotos and the Ancients.
Vibro knives too.
Yeah, sometimes they'll float the Vibros in for if they expect to see a lot of mirror matches or lots of other Ray decks or heavy shield decks.
No Obi?
One
Obi, one Rays, or some combination of those.
Yeah, some kind of mixture of that.
I mean, it's get 3 cost upgrades out there. Roll, pitch to reroll, roll, deal with it, right? And that's all it really is. I mean, it's like the Luke Ray deck from way back in the day that was just play my stuff, roll, I roll bad, okay, pitch to reroll, I roll bad, okay, keep pitching, now deal with this, right? There's 17 damage showing, you got to deal with it. You dealt with it, okay, we'll go to the next one. I'm going to put another upgrade out. Deal with that. I mean, it's the only way you can really deal with it is getting rid of their upgrades or getting to the point where they don't have a chance to play them at all, right? Like scruffy looking Nerf herder for upgrade on turn 1 is pretty good.
Probably a good call. Yeah.
Yeah. Like getting those 3 costs. It's one of the best things you can do for it. Like we said, abandoning all hope, first turn. Good.
I don't even know how much are you trying to mulligan for like removal stuff on round 1 as much? Like you might have one removal, right?
I think if you get a 0 cost in your first 5, you hold
guard
that.
Or caution. You keep
like
that,
a guard or a hidden motive, or a caution. Any one of those 3, I think is good to have in the opening hand. Especially caution, because that can set Ray off just from the get go, depending on what upgrades you get. And then you're probably looking for a reap or either it binds or both, and then some sort of upgrade and then you just start the train.
So let's go over like some of the bad matchups, since this has some weaknesses, but it has a lot of strength, and we've seen it do fairly well in the competitive tourney scene. And like you said, we will definitely see this at Worlds.
Like, I don't know that it has any just bad matchup. I mean, it's fast enough to deal with Mill, but I think Mill would probably be its worst.
I think the Yoda Hondo.
Yoda Hondo. You're screwed, because I mean that's just when a deck relies that much on upgrades. If you lose them, you're just in a bad spot. But yeah, I think Yoda Hondo should do pretty well versus Aayla as well.
And the thing about the Yoda Hondo match, if you vandalize their It Binds, that is so painful to them, because after turn 1, their ramp is going to be limited, unless they're hitting resources, which means Hondo gets to just do his tricks. So if you can hit a vandalize off of onto an It Binds early, I think that really slows the deck's ramp down.
So what are some of the good matchups for the Aayla deck?
I don't know if there's a bunch of decks that it just flat out beats. It's just really good against the field.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a, it's like Nick was saying, it's just a really good, fair deck. It doesn't have bad matchups. It doesn't have, I don't feel like it has stellar matchups anywhere, but I feel like it can hang with any of the decks pretty well, and a good pilot can make a huge difference with it.
I mean, to the point that it's mono blue with the exception of like 2 to 4 gray cards, and it's still pretty good against Kylo.
Well, that's because Kylo doesn't have a good partner.
Yeah, I mean, he has a decent in Talzin, and that's about it. But
it's decent. It's not really top tier though either. So
yeah, and some people are trying Anakin right now, but it's like you're probably going to hit for 2 every turn, and it's still good against it. Yeah, I mean, the other kind of mono blue melee deck that's kind of been popping up lately, people are back on trying Qui-Gon Yoda. They're taking the package of the chance cubes with, Yoda's ability to turn them, and then actually adding in force speeds as well to this, to where you just kind of load up the 0 cost upgrades onto Yoda, roll them out, kind of make it to where you can get multiple extra actions, use the money that you then made to load up Qui-Gon, roll him out, and still be able to resolve before they can do anything. And then using Yoda's special to basically turn and shield, so that Yoda now has the ability to get to the point where it's not only just gain a shield, but his option is to deal a point of damage as well. And that's been picking up a lot of steam lately. It's a very consistent deck, and it can kind of action cheat. Now, where the Rey Aayla doesn't really do well with force speed in it, this one does really good with it because of Yoda. It's another one of those decks where, it's not uncommon to have 3 and 4 upgrades out turn 1. You can get to the point where Qui-Gon has a Shoto and another weapon, and there's a chance cube and probably a force speed on Yoda, and you're just, again, you're way out and ahead in front of the opponent. And Yoda does work really well with Qui-Gon. I mean, it's just adding that extra option to his special to actually make him into a somewhat aggressive character definitely works well.
Yeah, it's one of the few Yoda variants where he gets a lot of flexibility in his die side, where you're not always looking at him for one side of his die. You can take a resource or turn a die. Probably going to take a shield every time for a point of damage. But he has a lot more flexibility in that deck as to what he can do with his specials.
Yeah, early on, you're probably just making money and using that chance cube to go to essentially 4 or 5 resources on the turn, and then, loading up Qui-Gon. And then after you've gotten Qui-Gon pretty loaded with, 2 to 3 upgrades, then you're just taking shield and turn, shield and turn, shield and turn, shield and turn. And Qui-Gon, now, while his dice aren't too consistent, the fact that he can then turn his shields into damage makes it, more so. It's probably the best deck for Obi-Wan Saber. It's, that with Yoda, you're doing 5 damage, 3 of which is most likely going to be unblockable because Qui-Gon's got 3 shields. You get synchronicity. You can do a Taru strike in it as well, and you're just kind of just dealing a lot of damage out of hand at that point.
I haven't actually really gotten to mess with Qui-Gon much. I haven't really played Qui-Gon really since maybe early Spirit of Rebellion Awakening, so it's kind of cool that he's kind of in that part where like I feel like he's pretty much viable right now. He might not be the best deck, but I think with Yoda, he's got some really cool stuff. I think with the way the meta might be changing, he might be a pretty decent pick for Worlds compared to some of the other options. I really like it versus Mill, at least, because you always have the ability to turn Yoda dice into damage. You don't need to reroll if you have that many damage sides.
That was going to be my little piece, because the end of this week I've been testing Mill again, and I ran into quite a few of those this weekend testing, and he is problematic for a Mill deck because he always has shields and he's always dealing damage, and every time Yoda's dice gets resolved, it's dealing damage, and it's a just constant flow of damage,
and you have no way of getting rid of those shields.
Yeah, and as a Mill player, you've got no real answer to any of that. You just have to take it.
Yeah, like once he gets the Obi-Wan saber on there, like you kind of have to preemptively get rid of that die every time it hits the pool, no matter what it's on, just because it represents so much damage just straight to you, especially unblockable, because he's going to be doing 3 unblockable with Yoda still around. Like, it's so hard for Yoda to not hit the special, and it really represents 5 at that point. It's just 2 of it's blockable.
Yeah,
that you can kind of deal with.
And if you want to see disgusting, get a Qui-Gon with 2 Shotos and a Obi-Wan.
Oh,
that is about as disgusting as it gets.
So I mean, how do you deal with that, regardless, Mill player or not? Like, that's still a lot of damage coming your way.
Well, the best way I found to deal with it is just to put all my cards in a pile and stick them back in my deck box. And say, you want to shuffle that up again? Because, I mean, no, it's brutal. You've got to be able to definitely control the Obi-Wan die, and you're going to have to find a way to stand up to the shield ping every time he activates, because he's going to get 2 damage when he activates. And then depending on what he gets on his roll, I mean, if he's got a Yoda die in a pool and a special, that's another 4 damage. So that's 6 damage just off of activating and 1 die. That doesn't count the other 2 Qui-Gon die and whatever the Shotos roll. So, I mean, it can get really disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that Mill can really fight that is to get lucky on the Mills and to be super fast with the Mill.
Or vandalize.
Vandalize, yeah.
That's probably one of the few times that you'll be okay with removing most of your character dice to get rid of a weapon.
Or, out of other Mill decks, running, the fallback or something like that. That helps out a lot, because that deck is just dumping upgrades onto their characters, but it's not going to get rid of the Obi Saber.
Right.
Like that, they're still going to have that out there.
That's probably the one they're keeping.
Yeah, I mean, you just have no way of getting rid of shields, and it's not something that you would ever try to waste a slot on to get rid of shields, and you gotta. Like it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Right. But if you're not playing Mill and you have ways of getting rid of those shields, like, who's your target? The person who has the shields or the person who has the Obi Saber? Like, who are you going for first?
I think Yoda is still your target because he gives you the dice correction and he gives you consistent damage while correcting or building your resources. I think you still kill Yoda first.
Yeah, if you kill Yoda, especially if he's got he's the one that's going to be carrying the 4 speeds. Getting rid of Yoda then means you have a chance to get rid of Obi-Wan's dice before, You
mean Qui-Gon's?
Yeah, Qui-Gon's dice. I say Obi-Wan because it's Obi-Wan Saber, but,
It should be Qui-Gon Saber.
Yeah, like, I don't know why that wasn't Qui-Gon Saber. It should be green.
Yeah, much more synergizes with Qui-Gon.
The other thing to remember with the deck, too, is most of them are packing 2 synchronicities and riposts and maybe 1 or 2 Ataru strikes. So the deck,
Ataru, that's cool that, like, Ataru Strike actually has got some good, like, synergy with that. Because otherwise, like, that's a cool card that never really got to see much play.
Yeah, and it works extremely well in there, and that's another problem card for Mill decks because you don't have ways to deal with shields. So if they sneak one through on you, it's going to hit hard.
Yeah, I mean, the Mill decks that can get into the hand with, Scruffy, Friends in Low Places, and Maz's Goggles, that helps out a lot.
Yeah.
So, yellow-based Mill decks can get in there and get rid of those things, but they got to do it quickly because, any one of those things can get out there. Like your Ataru Strike, most of them have to have dice in the board with the exception of the riposte, and the riposte you're almost okay with because it's getting rid of the shields at least, right? But yeah, I mean, you get in there quickly and get rid of those things. Kind of prioritize those on about the when you're inside their hand, kind of leaving their mitigation, because at least the mitigation is still getting rid of a card and not dealing damage to you. Usually your dice are representing 2 cards away, but if you're still just getting the 1 card, you're okay, as long as you're not taking any damage on top of it.
So once again, what are some of the bad matchups for Qui-Gon and Yoda?
It doesn't like vehicles.
Really?
Yeah, but that's mainly because if they get a chance to mitigate, generally they're taking two dice away. It can put out enough sustained damage to where the shields aren't so much of a problem. And if that game goes long, it's just going to be too much for Qui-Gon to deal with, because it does have just the blue hero mitigation, right? That is cannibalizing your dice too, and it's less damage that they're taking. They're probably going to get rid of some good damage, but you're still not taking the damage. And if the vehicle deck goes long, it's going to just get to the point where it's too much for the Qui-Gon Yoda to deal with. Getting rid of Yoda first then allows you to be able to mitigate the damage coming out of Qui-Gon, and once at that point you're golden, because now all your indirect sides are either A, deal a lot of damage, or get rid of all of their shields, and then they have to rebuild.
Yeah, and with the vehicle deck, I mean, it kind of reaches a critical mass on turn 3-4 in that ballpark. I mean, it can ramp out pretty good to turn 2, but generally if the vehicle deck can sustain for the first 2 rounds and keep the Qui-Gon deck off of them for the most part in the first 2 rounds, it's got a real good shot.
I mean, it'll just kind of eventually explode.
Yeah, it's just going to overwhelm at some point.
So is the Qui-Gon Yoda deck kind of weak to Abandon All Hope, similar to, Aayla? But I mean, it's difficult because Aayla can't make money nearly as fast as Yoda can. But is that going to put them far enough behind where, you can sustain and you can get ahead of them?
I don't think it's that bad, because if you're doing your 2 resources to do that against them, then you're basically saying, I'm not ramping this round, but you have Yoda, so I guess you could still ramp this round. Really, what it more is saying is that, like, you're not ramping this round, or I'm not ramping this round, but I'm going to make it so you're going to have a harder time mitigating my dice. So, like, then the Qui-Gon Yoda player would be able to roll out Yoda and hopefully get 2 resources off of that, and hopefully be able to play something out still, which will remove the consistency from the round. But it also means, like, the biggest deck that's probably running a Bandit All Hope right now would be Boba 7th. So it still wouldn't be a bad play for them to do. It could be like, here, I'm going to do this too, and now I'm going to roll out my 5 dice and see what I can get by unmitigated right now. So I mean, I don't think it's as nearly as bad as it is for Aayla.
I think it puts you, like, against that deck, I think it actually puts you behind, but you were able to get in some amount of damage. Like, Yoda is going to most likely be able to make money if he wants to make money. He's got focus sides. He's got, his special, if he wants to make money, he's going to make money. Plus they can always play the 0 cost, the 4 speeds and stuff on there as well. Like, I don't think it's worth trying to fight it on that angle. It is worth keeping them off of the chance cube die. It is worth taking some amount of damage to keep them from ramping that hard, to just, if you can get rid of that chance cube die, especially, considering they have to pay 1 to roll it in, it's okay. Because that basically represents that they don't have a 3 cost upgrade, or potentially 2 cost upgrades on Qui-Gon that you're going to have to deal with anyway. So you've pretty much, by getting rid of that 1 die, you have mitigated the die that upgrade was going to represent as well. Mm-hmm. But abandoning all hope, I don't think is worth it against it. I think it puts you too far behind against it, unless you can also make a lot of money.
Yeah.
What do you think some good tech cards against this deck are?
Obviously, Frighten. Anything to get rid of mass shields. Just understand that they're going to rebuild those shields again.
And quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this deck does run at least 1 copy, if not 2, of the heightened reflexes.
Heightened awareness.
So, I mean, it's just going to build those shields right back up. But it's worth getting rid of those shields and making them spend the card to do so, or spend the shields for shields instead of spending the shields for damage. Getting rid of Shotos, vandalizing Shotos is good. Vandalizing chance cubes after they'd rolled out, vandalizing 4 speeds, it's vandalizes pretty good against it.
Yeah, I think if you can put 6 vandalizes in there, you should be okay.
Yeah, luckily we can play 4.
Yes, that's true.
With Rebel. Fighting its resource ramp in the early stages of the game can help out a lot, but all it takes is really 1 to get through, and you kind of just prolong the situation.
Hey, Sugi, what else are we going to talk about?
Oh, gosh. Wave to segue that one, Todd. So. All right, so our last deck for this episode is going to be Zeb Yoda, just because people are trying to make Zeb work. A lot of people think Zeb is interesting. A lot of people find Zeb to be potent because you can get a lot of value out of his dice. He has consistency, and with Yoda especially, Yoda is like the king of enabling literally anything. If you want to do mill, you can use Yoda as the enabler. If you want to do sticks, you can use Yoda as the enabler. If we ever get some character with like blue guns, Yoda will probably enable that too. Like Yoda just does so much, and Zeb pairs perfectly with him. And that's a deck that we're probably going to see at Worlds. I don't know how well it's going to do, but like I said, I know people are trying to make Zeb work because he's so flexible, and he is pretty scary if you can get the right dice on him.
I think the only thing that this really gets you that the Yoda Qui-Gon does is the access to the yellow mitigation. You know, they're basically doing the same thing. It's just Zeb has a bigger side on him and more damage sides, and you know, access to yellow, right? It gives you easy pickings. It gives you, you know, entangle if you want it. It gives you vandalize, and to a lesser extent, it gives you the vibro cutlass, which is pretty good on Zeb.
Well, actually, it also gives you ranged weapons too.
Yeah, but ranged weapons in the end is really just a different way of doing damage that the sticks are pretty much better at right now.
It depends.
Like, yeah, there are some good ranged weapons, but in yellow blue, not so much.
I mean, like Hidden Blaster is like one of just like solid options of just, it's got good sides. It does a damage if you have shields basically when you play it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also what, a 1/1 +2?
Yeah.
1+2+2.
It's
the
1
same
+2
as
+2
Shoto in that sense.
Yeah, but Shoto also is every turn it can take away a shield potentially, right? Or every turn giving you a shield. Now Shoto I think is just better in that situation.
But it gives you tempo too the round you play it, which is important sometimes.
A little bit. It's always going to at least get that first shield off.
And that's the ambush is also really good.
Yeah, and the ambush. But it's like, I just don't see it getting you anything that Qui-Gon Yoda doesn't already have.
It's just a removal, right? In terms of that,
yeah. I mean, if Kylo 2 somehow gets a really good partner and pops up, it's a little bit better in that regard. But again, like everything that you can get out of Qui-Gon Yoda, you can get out of Qui-Gon Zeb. I mean, flip that. Anything that you can get out of Qui-Gon Zeb, you can get out of Qui-Gon Yoda, with the exception of the ranged weapons and stuff. But the Qui-Gon makes Yoda more relevant. I mean, it was like there was people playing it a lot in the beginning of the format, and people just went away from it. Again, people were playing Qui-Gon Yoda at the beginning of the format, and people went away from it. The only thing that's really made the resurgence for Qui-Gon is people realize, hey, Chance Cube is pretty good if I can, get these upgrades on here, and the force speeds and all that other stuff, it makes it pretty hard to deal with. And I just don't think that Zeb, while I think Zeb should be good, I just don't think he's good right now with what the yellow brings in the damage regard.
Yeah, I think the deck probably yellow blue hero, I mean, is arguably the best control package in the game. So I mean, the deck definitely has that. It's probably going to have your best mitigation in the game, right? And it does have an interesting suite of weapons. I think Vibro Axe is super cool, and I think it's very relevant in the format. The ability to wipe shields and then deal damage is pretty big, especially with as much hero blue as is running around, and with the rise of the Riken Mill decks with the shields and everything else. That weapon is really good. Those are probably the biggest draws to the deck for me. The big thing for me on him is his damage sides. He's got really two sides that I want to hit, and one of them is going to be a pay side, so that kind of limits him. Yoda gives you the extra resource to help pay for it when you turn it into it, but I'd really rather not have to pay for damage, especially off my character dice if I can help it.
Yeah, I mean, the Vibro Axe is a good point, right? It's probably pretty good right now, and he's probably the best option to run it. But again, like, what are you really gaining out of that?
I mean, as a control player, I do like having that easy pickings and entangle. I'm not going to argue with that. Because like you said earlier, a lot of your blue mitigation, you have to have dice on the table. And if you're playing against a blowout deck like, say you're sitting across from Boba 7 and they roll out, just the nuts, hey, if you don't have, first of all, blue character with melee showing, like you're not getting that force misdirection off to save your life, but you could hit him with an easy pickings, which could, save your life. I mean, there's a lot of could, would, should scenarios, but at least with entangle and easy pickings, you can let your opponent go first and you still have a way to answer massive damage showing, where if you're only running a blue package, it's much harder.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you access to mitigation that doesn't require your dice being out in the pool, or kind of soft mitigation like hidden agenda or hidden motive. I mean, the Vibro X does kind of set you up for failure against easy pickings too, though. I mean, it's 2 3-for-1s, and you got Zeb's 3-for-1s. He's got a 2. Zeb's got a 2. Like it'll screw you over just the amount of times that it helps with that ability to get rid of the shields too.
Right, but then you can bring cards like Scruffy Looking Nerf Herder or Friends in Low Places to help kind of mitigate that issue, where you might have potentially a way to look at their hand and get some hand knowledge, so okay, hey, get rid of an event with your Friends in Low, and then you see, oh, hey, they've got some things that can really hurt me, so I need to sequence my rolls appropriately so they have the least amount of a chance to remove my dice.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of at that point, though, you're really running tight on slots in your deck, and you kind of want to know where you're going to focus on. So, I mean, I guess it could probably, with the Scruffies, be better against the Aayla Ray in that regard, but it's worse with you're probably not running Force Misdirection in that deck at that point. So, like, I don't know. It's like the access to the Scruffy with still having a pretty aggro deck kind of maybe gives it a little bit of an edge to be able to have that option to Scruffy first turn before they get a chance to hit that 3-cost upgrade, still be able to make some money with Yoda and play your 3-cost upgrade, and then be so far ahead on them that they may not be able to catch up. So, I mean, that's probably worth testing in that regard, especially if you think there's going to be a lot of Aayla Ray there. I mean, there will be a good amount. It's just one of those decks that doesn't have a whole lot of bad matchups, so that may be a way to kind of push it in your favor if you don't want to just play Aayla Ray yourself, because their decks are doing pretty much the same thing, only just Zeb just swinging a lot harder than anybody else and a lot more expensive.
It's definitely a resource hungry deck. It's definitely going to be that.
It's something.
But I mean, that's why you bring Yoda to the table, because he helps kind of fix that problem.
Yeah, he helps. 3-for-1 sides, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, whereas the Ray Aayla, like, it hurts when they can continuously affect your money, but it's not as bad after the first turn. Where this one, if they can continuously affect your money, it's going to suck for the entire game.
Yeah,
like you're probably not running Binds All Things in the Zeb deck, because you're just not playing as many blue upgrades. So, like, you're gonna want your resource sides, or you want your resources to do what you want them to do, and not having to hold up resources in order to pay for those damage sides. I mean, there's a lot of pay sides in this deck, so I mean that can definitely come back to haunt you in there.
Yeah, I feel like Hondo loves this deck.
Yeah.
Well, you also have to be afraid of Boba, because if you roll out the 3-for-1, and then you need another additional turn to get that resource, that could be a scary thing to sequence, because say they roll out Boba first and they hit a special. Now you kind of don't want to roll Zeb, because if you get a 3-for-1, they can just punch you right in the face.
For free.
But that's why you get that yellow mitigation to get rid of it. You could even electroshock it if you had that resource.
I think we know how Nick feels about this deck.
Not a fan.
It's okay.
Not a fan, are you?
It's okay.
Why is it just okay?
You could say it could be a better deck. But it's okay.
It's okay.
I don't love it, but it's okay.
That means Nick's playing it at Worlds.
Yeah.
Probably.
He's trying to keep it on the down low.
I'm not playing it.
No, because it doesn't have Guardian in it.
Nothing is Guardian. Guardian sucks.
Oh, you heard it
Don't
first.
get me started.
Guardian is dead.
Guardian is dead.
Let's talk.
That's just a sad reality.
We should talk about the Phasma deck next.
Yeah, next week on What Will Nick Not Be Playing at Worlds?
You can play Boba Phasma. You can play other stuff with Phasma too. Phasma 1 is so dead in the water now, though.
Yeah, when the mitigation is so good, why do you want to just be able to deal damage to yourself?
Yeah, there's so many issues now with so Guardian was amazing in a time where the mitigation options were worse. Where the mitigation options are better, it Guardian's just the worst kind of mitigation. You're like, well, that's not good.
We're no longer trying to get gigantic modified sides with one base sides anymore.
Nobody's risking stuff like that.
It's all little bits of plink damage over time.
Yeah. And not to mention, your opponents have better like removal. Like Easy Pickings, Tangle, and Garbage Chute are the 3 new hero removal cards. Well, Entangle's the one that's at least neutral, but like Hero has access to 3 new multi-die removal cards that are just super good against like a fair Guardian deck like Phasma. Not to mention that with the prevalence of special chaining decks here and there now, that it just can't handle. Not to mention it also just gets its teeth kicked in by something like vehicles. So
the other problem is you have a lot of sideways damage too, where damage can come from specials. Like it doesn't necessarily come from a side physically showing damage. And I mean, it's going to get even worse with Old Man Luke. Yeah,
Guardian is going to be a forgotten keyword that was a great idea that just doesn't really stick with the game as it is now unless they do stuff to change it.
Like banding in Magic.
Or flanking.
Banding or flanking.
That's how forgotten it is.
Yeah.
No, I know what flanking does. I think I know what banding does.
They like mechanics that were tried and then given up on. Yeah, I mean, I like the concept of it, but I think until they decide to like rework it or figure out a better way of handling it, we'll best not be putting it on more cards. Like I think we got a few other cards. Like we got one card recently, I think in Legacies that actually can give a non-unique Guardian, but it's like that ain't worth a resource anymore. Then it used to never be worth a resource. It's definitely not worth one now.
Man, if that was a 0 cost, would you play it?
Yeah, I think that would be fair. I think Guardian is actually not stupidly like powerful enough now that would be fair and it would be fine. And honestly, that's the kind of thing that we need to see to even allow for 3 character decks to thrive in this meta outside of like outside of vehicles. There's nothing but a 2 character meta right now. And it's not because thermal detonators and POMAs are everywhere. It's just because I don't know. I don't honestly know what the answer is.
Because it's cheaper to get that other die from
Force Wave is a problem.
It's not
also,
everywhere.
POMA's dead.
Yeah, I mean, but like it's not like there's massive area damage that you're super worried, and that's the reason why. Like if Yoda Hondo wasn't in the meta and didn't have Force Wave in it, that's like that's probably the only deck. Like Zeb Yoda you could put Force Wave in too. Like, but for the most part, like not a lot of decks are playing Force Wave, and even if there are no decks playing Force Wave in the meta, you still wouldn't be seeing other 3 character decks in the meta. I think that's because vehicles also kind of beats the 3 character decks for the most part right now. It's like the slowest of the slow decks, and it just kind of beats up on those too. So yeah, I think it'd be awesome if they would have made that like Guardian on a non-unique cost 0, because it probably would have been a fair card in this market. To mention, you have to put it in your deck. That's 2 cards you didn't have for other useful effects.
Okay, so that means you have to win Worlds and then design that card.
Probably would have made Bro TK more broken though, because you'd be able to put it on 7th Sister.
We'll make it a hero only then.
No way, make it villain only.
What? Ugh, no.
Hero's kind of nasty.
Phasma only. Spot Phasma to
spot Phasma. Here we go. Oh boy.
They should have a
Spot Phasma to give all your characters Guardian for 0.
They should have a 1-cost red villain event that says
Inspiring Presence. That's what it's called.
They should have a 1-cost red villain event that says throw Phasma off the table to remove all opponents die.
No, that's only if you're playing Finn.
Oh, yeah. All right. So now we've got it figured out. That's a good one.
See, it's got to be thematic, just like in the film.
Yeah, it's called Completely Irrelevant Character.
Yeah, right?
With a cool backstory.
Yeah, cool backstory.
There's at least a good...
Which one? Which one are you talking about? Both of them are completely irrelevant.
I like her backstory a lot.
Yeah, her backstory is cool.
At least with the idea of her backstory, I'm hopeful that she is not actually dead. So... we'll see.
You know, they said she's like the Kenny of the series, right? They're just going to keep bringing her back.
Oh my God, they killed Phasma.
That needs to be a t-shirt. All right, so before we get out of here, we have a special guest interview with Steve from Cascade Games, and we talked a little bit about a really cool announcement that he's going to share with you right here. I'm here with Steve from Cascade Games, and he's got a big announcement he wants to share with us on the Knights of Ren podcast. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. We had a lot of fun at PAX Unplugged, and I hear you're going to be announcing some new dates. So why don't you tell all the listeners about this, big announcement from Cascade?
Yeah, so we have definitely, so they're up on our site and available now, but we just announced several Galactic qualifiers. First new one that we've added that's coming up is at DreamHack Austin, which is a great esports festival. I know it's our second time in Austin, but it's a really great show. And it's a good fit for the show. I'm looking forward to seeing a big group back in Austin. The next one is confirming Origins. So we will be running basically full Galactic qualifier set and pods and everything at Origins. And then in the absence of the Evergreen Tabletop Expo that was supposed to happen in Seattle, we have set up our own sort of tabletop weekend to fill the gap for the events that we're going to be running there, and working with ETX to make sure when they come back next year, bigger, better, stronger, that we are going to reintegrate with them. But so in Seattle on June 24th, 25th is actually a full weekend of events, Fantasy Flight focused, not just Destiny Galactic qualifiers, but X-Wing System Open, L5R, Grand Kotai, Netrunner National Championships, Rune Wars National Championships, and a Game of Thrones Regional Championship. So full weekend of FFG fun in Seattle that weekend.
That's a lot of stuff. So is this in addition to the previous Galactic qualifiers you've had over the last year? Like, we're going to see you at PAX Unplugged again?
Yeah, definitely. So PAX Unplugged is sort of the unofficial, official beginning of the season, I think. But these dates that we're announcing now are the kind of last thing. There might be one more announcement, and I think but that is the only thing that we're still looking at is one more small show that probably covers an X-Wing Open and a Galactic qualifier, but trying to pin down the details and hopefully have that out in the next couple of weeks. And then that will be effectively everything for the season that we're in. And then we roll into PAX Unplugged as the kickoff to next year's whole set of Fantasy Flight events.
Last year when we started at PAX Unplugged, there was the fresh reveal of the spot gloss cards. Mm-hmm. And then as you've gone through this last year, you've kind of unveiled a few more here and a few more there as you go. Are we going to see anything new, or is it going to be spot glosses? Can you elaborate on any kind of prize support we might be seeing as we come out of Worlds and going into these new Galactic qualifiers?
Yeah, so there are still a few cards to be released over these next few events. There will be the next releases that I'm aware of is we will be releasing a card at the Galactic qualifier in Kubla Khan in San Francisco coming up, which is your next opportunity to play besides Worlds. And we've got another card at Anime Expo coming up. We don't have maybe one at Origins. I don't remember. There's still definitely some cards lurking out there that people have not seen yet. So,
oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
For people who've never been to these events, or there's a lot of people who are just kind of curious, like, why should I go or what should I expect? Because they know that there's going to be spot glosses, but outside of that, can you tell us a little bit about the other events that you run? Because PAX Unplugged, it was more than just the GQ. There was like new player support, there was pods, there were all kinds of things you could do that were Destiny related that may or may not be getting the proper coverage that it really should be getting.
Yeah, for sure. So there's, in addition to the main event, that main 6-round double elimination tournament, you have the on-demand escape pods, which really give folks the opportunity to play lots of games rapidly. They're quick little 8-person, 3-round tournaments, and allow you to roll through. We offer them in all current formats. So you can do trilogy pods, you can do standard pods, you can do rivals pods, and we pretty much just try and keep all of them open and up and running so that people can choose their flavor and play. And what we see typically is whatever the main event is on the day, the pods tend to go to the other event so people can practice for the next event the next day. So, if I have a standard GQ on Saturday, I end up doing a ton of trilogy pods all day Saturday after people are done with that event so they can get ready for the Sunday trilogy qualifier, or vice versa, wherever it is. But that's kind of the lines they tend to fall across, is practice pods for the next day's GQ, right? Or tweaking the deck once they've hit their various levels of success in the GQ. And then at several shows we'll do a learn to play at the convention ones. We'll do a learn to play event to try and pull people in, pull new players into the game, obviously. And I think we probably ran 60 to 100 people through learn to play events at PAX East last weekend.
Wow, that's really cool. Are you guys using the Legacy starters or are you using the Rey and Kylo starters?
As of PAX East, we've been using basically player's choice, Kylo, Rey, Boba, Luke, whatever anybody wants.
Oh, that's really nice. I didn't know that. Yeah. So yeah, if you're kind of lurking about and thinking maybe I'll play Star Wars Destiny, I was able to help with the PAX Unplugged, and that was a lot of fun. We had so many people come through, and getting to talk to people, play games with them, and just sit around was really great. Is there anything else that a listener might be interested in with these new upcoming, announced dates? Is there any new prize support that you can talk about, or anything that Cascade's going to be doing? Because it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of great connection points. But overall, it's a lot of fun to just sit down, play some Destiny. And then once that's done, fire off some pods. And then once that's done, go pick a spot class of your choice.
Yeah, right. The structure remains the same for the rest of this year. And then it may be at PAX Unplugged at the end of the year when you start to see tweaks to the overall structure. But this is a structure we're rolling along for the rest up to that point and all the announced events to this point. And we're always looking for feedback though, right? So if there's something, if you've been to one or if you haven't been to one, but there's a format you'd like to play or you've got a great idea, right? We're always looking for that stuff because we ultimately want to create the best possible play experience that we can. And we try and keep our ear as close to the ground as we can on how people are playing and what they want to do, but somebody somewhere has got some weird variant that they're playing that's super fun and we don't know about it. So we need to know those things so we can work them in.
Are you guys doing draft pods?
Yeah, we'll have Rivals draft pods. They were popular at first. They tend to not be as popular, I think, because people are falling, like I say, into this practice round. And what I found is that everybody's grinding for tickets, and as much as they'd like to draft, it's an extra half hour to 45 minutes that they could be playing. So I would love to see more people drafting at the pods. It doesn't matter what game it is. I tend to play the limited format because you never know what's going to happen, right? And I really enjoy that limited format, and I would love it if I could fire more of those simply because I think they are fun and they're different, right? Instead of just playing the same decks against each other. But yeah, I get people want to practice and people want to grind out those tickets because the spot glosses are gorgeous and it can be challenging to pile together enough tickets to get one. So
all right, so when you're going to play, you're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to meet a ton of people, but there is also opportunities I've heard to help out. Is it like a volunteer or staff? Like how does that work exactly?
Yeah, so we are always looking for fantastic individuals to help us, pull off these events and help everybody have a great time. You can currently sign up on our website, set up a staffing profile for yourself, and we are just now launching some certification tests, especially around the Fantasy Flight events. We've got some certification tests for Destiny, X-Wing, and L5R, just so we can continue to keep the level of judge quality high. There isn't an existing judge program or anything for these events, and we're sort of laying the groundwork for that here, as well as building a pool of people that we will always look to first when we are getting a new event and need to get it staffed up quickly and things like that. Because we try and plan these things as far ahead as we can, but sometimes you're just going to see gear shift and be like, we've got an event, it's in 45 days, and we need a judge staff. So we've got this big pool of people we can go off of. So if you're interested in helping us out at any of our events, definitely check out the staffing portal, sign up, create a profile, take some tests, and apply for any of the events that you're interested in checking out.
Now that's really exciting because I have a question about that. Is this judge program through you and FFG? Is it purely through Cascade? Because it's kind of been
sorry to cut you off. This is a Cascade Games initiative to create qualified, certified staffing around these games.
Yeah, that's great because we've had that argument for a long time now with Destiny. Like, there is no judge program, so how can you verify someone knows what they're talking about? And that's great to hear that you're actively doing that. So yeah, everyone who's listening, check out Cascade Games, check out their website, and I think that's going to be really good for the community because like everyone can't just show up and become a judge. They have to prove that they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know the game pretty well, and then I just kind of quickly tried to take I can pass this Destiny test. These are not pushover tests, right? There's some thought involved, some card interaction, lots of card interaction stuff. We've leveraged, different folks, developers and judge staff that we've used that we know are solid to help us develop these tests and everything. So yeah, definitely check it out. We're always looking for quality people, and we need more of them. So yeah, I challenge you to take the test and try and pass it.
I'm going to have to take a look at that test now. As we wrap this interview up, where can people find you?
So CascadeGames.com has got links to all of the current events and registration. You cannot register for a couple of key events because you'll need to go directly to their website. So the Origin events, don't know if they're live yet, but they will be live soon. You'll be able to pre-register through the Origins website. And then I guess the only other one you can't pre-register for right now, which is our next event coming up, is the events at KublaCon in San Francisco. That goes all through their website as well. And I do know that hotel rooms are getting scarce. So if you're looking at spending Memorial Day weekend in San Francisco, you definitely want to hop on that. Their pre-registration for that event ends May 4th, I believe, as well. So a couple more weeks to get everybody into that. The field is looking pretty good right now, shaping up to be one of the bigger qualifiers for sure. And it's San Francisco, so it's a heck of a town, and there's plenty of stuff to do outside the convention as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. We will be seeing you at PAX Unplugged and maybe a couple other events since you've opened up the field. So we're really excited to hang out with you guys, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Pleasure to be here, and looking forward to seeing everybody out there.
So yeah, that's really exciting. We've got some new announcements for GQ dates coming up soon. So if those are going to be happening in your area or in your, travel zone, that's exciting. So check out more information at Cascade Games. And as we get out of here, we always want to give a huge thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Our newest Patreon, Eric Rucco. Thank you so much for supporting the Knights of Ren. We greatly appreciate everyone's help. And just so you know, all of this is going towards all the stuff that we're going to be doing at World. So if you're listening and you're going to be joining us, we are so happy to see you. Come find us. I'm going to be wearing my pink hat. We're going to be wearing our jerseys. Shake our hands. Let us know who you are. We'd love to meet you. We really love all of our supporters, all of the community. And Worlds is just a huge party and a chance for us to get to meet you. So if you're enjoying the show and you want to help support us for the coverage that we're going to be doing, please feel free to donate. Even a single dollar helps because we've got a ton of stuff to take care of. And all of those dollars, when combined together, really help us get all of these things taken care of. So we are going to be getting out of here. We will see you all next week. Thank you so much for joining us, and may the Force be with you. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and join us on all of our social media outlets. And a big thank you to all of our Patreons for your support. We can't do this without your help, so make sure to join us for all of our exclusive Knights of Ren content.